the next episode of the Publishing Persuasion. I am Angela Montoya, along with the amazing, the glorious, the teal queen, Melanie Schubert. Melanie, how are you today?
I just can't live up to your announcements of me.
I need to start looking up more words. I need to get it like I need to get a friggin' thesaurus. What's the word?
Thesaurus.
Thesaurus. Well, how are you today? Melanie, you had a really fun week.
I did have a really fun week. So went to the first book launch I've been to since pre-pandemic. So it's like, what, 2.5 years now? Maybe longer, because it's not like I went to one the day before pandemic started. Maybe like 3 years since having like an actual in-person book launch. And it was for one of my favorite Aussie authors, favorite authors in general, actually, Astrid Schultz. And I do have her new book here. Yeah. And this is the extra copy I got, because we've got Astrid on the show next week, and I got this copy signed to do a giveaway.
Yeah.
So we'll have to think of some way to get our listeners to enter in for that, because that's hot property signed by the Queen herself. I just adore her. And as you know, I've been following her career for a while now, and she's actually one of the reasons I found out about Pitch Wars, because she's this Australian YA author that I started following. And then when I read up on her, I realized she'd been in this program called Pitch Wars, and I was like, well, Astrid did Pitch Wars, so I should look into it. So it's like one of my really early encounters with like this whole online community, So wow. Yeah, I've been following her since her debut. Have you read 4 Dead Queens?
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah, I did. That's amazing.
It's just so cool to have like the first book event going back to being that, and knowing we have her on the podcast next week is just, my little nerdy heart was so full. And
yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of nerdy hearts, we just finished recording with Zoraida Córdova, and I might have embarrassed myself the entire time. I started the whole show just not even hello. I just went right into it and was like, what are you up to, Zoraida? And she said, I might have scared her a little bit, but I couldn't help it. I was so excited and nervous because, just like Astrid and is somebody you've been following, Zoraida is that for me. I've been following her career and read her books. And so when I saw her face pop up onto the screen, I freaked out. I had a moment. So
It's totally natural. And you know what? I think that isn't that every author's dream, to have people love their work that much that when they meet them, they're like, oh my gosh. And I think because authors probably get that less than, say, like an actor or a singer or something, like a different kind of creative field, because, they're behind the books. So I think that would mean everything to her. And you're not alone. I think just sometimes when we finally meet these people whose careers we've been following for so long, it can be like the first time I met Astrid, I was so nervous, and even when I took my husband to book launch for Amy Kaufman and Jay Christoph, who are other big Australian authors, and I'd been going on so much about it, and he's like, he's not in the bookish world at all, he's a truckie, so he's like, yeah, but obviously I was like fangirling over them so hard. And when we got there and we were like in line waiting to get a book signed, and he was like, shit, he's like, I'm actually suddenly very nervous.
So cute.
That's the power of the established author. So no, I loved it. I think it just made the episode even more all the feels. And I'm sure she'll love it too.
Well, I hope so. And if she unfollows me, now I know why.
How have you been otherwise?
I've been good. I am almost done with like this little round of revisions for Sinner's Isle. I have I'm going to read through it one time, like actual physically read through it. Like I'm going to act it out. I'm going to say the lines. I'm going to do it all. So I need to be alone for that. So I'm just waiting till I have like some free time, and then I'm going to really get in, because I feel like once you really like say it out loud or hear it out loud, like you can hear what isn't making sense or what doesn't sound right. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to hopefully have this first round done. And I feel good. I know that there's still work to be done. Like, you know, they're going to want to, you know, change things and go deeper. But like, I feel like this first round is good, is where we're hoping to get it to. So I'm excited for that. And I am excited to feel this way, because when I first started revisions, I did not. Because I was very much like, how did I get signed? Like, why did they read this? You know, I was just like, I think I frauded everybody into like somehow buying this book. So I feel good now, but I did not a little bit ago.
Good. But
yeah.
You know what? It's literally a nonstop roller coaster being a writer. Like I'm just finding that it is very hard to have the middle ground between I'm awesome and I'm a total fraud. Why am I doing this? Like, trying really hard to find the middle ground. Maybe we're just passionate people, okay?
Yeah,
but it's
maybe.
I was like, with my work in progress, I've been like a bit frozen with it in this one place. And I had an idea I got frozen with the love interest, and I was like, this would be cool, this would be cool, this would be cool. And actually, I was doing Story Genius and whatever. And I was thinking about this when we were talking with Zoraida, that this is literally what I was going through this week of like, I got so obsessed with these courses recently. I was like, I have to use Save the Cat. I have to use Story Genius, or it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be a real story. And I didn't realize how much I was telling myself this. It's not like I was like looking in the mirror every day and being like, right, Melanie, Story Genius now. It's like the little subtle monologue going on in the back of your brain. And I actually froze up with it, even though usually when I'm doing courses, it helps me, right? But for some reason, I was just like, oh, am I hitting this? Am I hitting this? So I kind of wasn't writing much. And then this week I was like, I don't feel good not writing. I was like, why aren't I writing? I was like, because you feel like you're not doing all the things Story Genius wants you to. Because I had fucking overwhelmed myself, Angela, like very heavily. And I was like, okay, put Story Genius down and just go back to what you always do and just write. Just write because you love it. Just feel it out. Stop trying to plan who this love interest is, and just write and feel it out. And actually, Jessica Paris said to me one time, and it's really stuck with me. She's like, you're a real instinctive writer. She's like, just have a play and see what happens. And like her voice kind of popped into my head this week. And I was like, I'm going to go have a play around. So I did. I just grabbed my laptop. I was like, I'm going to write whatever, even if it's the shittiest sentence of my life. And this week is the first time since I had the idea that I've fully just taken off with it. And I was in tears because when I got to the love interest, he just came to me. You know, I was like, this is who it is. The voice came to me, everything. And I had been trying so hard to plan it out. And it's funny because this week I was listening to a podcast by Amy Kaufman, and she talks about this exact thing about how there's no one right way. And you've got to kind of feel it out with every book. And going to back in a full circle to Astrid's launch, she's like a self-proclaimed pantser. And I thought about it and I was like, I've been trying so hard to be a plotter, like a serious plotter. And it's just, I can't fully lean into that because it steals the joy out of writing. And I adore Astrid's books. So why am I trying so hard to be too formulaic? So is this like profound realization this week that I've had with this work? I got a bit ranty.
No, but I love it. I love it because I think we always try to, like you said, like try to do what everybody says is the right way, and everybody works so differently that one right way for somebody else isn't necessarily your right way, or you just pull from all these different ideas and use whatever is going to work best for you. So
totally. I
gotta
think
find it.
courses are great, they're crucial to level up, but I think I can't watch them and try to follow them as I go. I need to listen, absorb, and then, like Zoraida said, like kind of just break the rules and
Yes.
feel your way out with it. And because those are the books I love reading, the ones that are kind of just, you can never guess where she's going to go, Astrid, with her books. And that's part of the joy for me, like not being able to guess what's going to happen next. So yeah, that's my little, and my heart feels so happy this week because I'm just like, it's just pouring out of me again. And that's when I feel my happiest, when I'm like, just pure, you know what I'm talking about, when that fire takes over, the big magic, and you're like, it's just, you can't type quick enough.
I love it. I love it for you. It makes me happy that you've had this breakthrough.
Yeah.
You found the magic, and that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. So really looking forward, obviously, to having Astrid on the show next week. I'll definitely be fangirling. But yeah, like our episode that we're going to have coming after this, we're going to be giving you the goods with one of your favorite authors, who I'm so glad you introduced me to, because her writing is just gorgeously poetic.
Yeah, Zoraida and she's got books. Like, she has so many books, and she writes for Star Wars too. But let me read her. I know.
I was talking about it. I was like, yeah, does she mean she's like, I was trying to like click in because I hadn't read that yet.
She does, and I had it on my list of things to ask her, but we didn't get that far. So we'll have to have her on again if she'll allow us, and we'll get to those. But yeah, let me read you her bio for those who somehow don't know Zoraida Córdova. She is an acclaimed author of more than 24 novels and short stories, including Brooklyn Brujas, which I love, series, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, A Crash of Fate, and The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. In addition to writing novels, she serves on the board of We Need Diverse Books and is co-editor of the best-selling anthology Vampires Never Get Old, as well as the co-host of the writing podcast Deadline City, which is a fantastic podcast, by the way. She writes romance novels as Zoey Castile. Zoraida was born in Guayaquil, Ecuador. We'll pretend I said it exactly right. And calls New York home. When she's not working, she's roaming the world in search of magical stories. For more information, visit her at ZoraidaCórdova.com. So boss biatch, for sure. She's just doing her thing, and her career is one that, like I said, I've been watching, and I strive to be half as good as she is. So yeah. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to this episode. She has so many great things to say, and she has been doing it for so long now that she really understands the business and understands what it takes to be a writer in this journey. So yeah, let's bring her on the show. Hello, Zoraida.
How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you're traveling right now. Where are you at? What are you up to? Sorry, just hop right in.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Zoraida.
Sorry. I just am like, hey girl, what are you up to?
I've been in Puerto Rico since February of last year, 2021. And then I'm on my way back to New York. But I'm at a writing retreat in the Floribama coast. I don't actually know where I am. I just got on a plane somewhere, and then my friends drove me, and I could be kidnapped, but I'll blink a few times if I am.
Yeah, let us know. We'll keep an eye out. Well, Melanie and I are just so excited to have you. Maybe me a little too much because I just hopped right in and didn't even like, I was just like, hey, welcome. I keep telling Melanie and basically everybody that I am a huge fan of yours. You are my idol of
Oh my God, don't stop.
publishing. I love you. So when you agreed to be on the show, I was just like, no, it's real. It's happening. Yeah.
He was fangirling in the DMs and I got so excited, and I've been reading your book, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Your writing is so poetic and lush, and I just love it so much. So I'm a new fangirl, but I am coming in hot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So
how long have you guys had this podcast?
Oh, actually, I want to say it's almost a year, give or take. We've done like an episode a month, basically since we finished Pitch Wars last year. Yeah, I think it's almost been a year, which is bizarre. It's so time, right? Like time is just doesn't even exist anymore. But yeah, we've been at it for a little bit.
And originally, I think we were just like the frantic zone after Pitch Wars. I was like, I need to do something. And like, there's kind of a buzz that happens around that time. And we were just like, let's put that energy. And I got Angela to agree to come on and do it with me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I'm a big fan of your podcast. It's one of my favorites. Like I listen to it all the time. I've been, a friend and I were just complaining because we've been waiting for a new episode, but it's okay. We'll wait.
Danielle's downstairs. I'll tell her.
Okay, good. You tell her I've been waiting. I keep checking my Spotify and I'm like, I guess these ladies have work to do.
Yeah, we're out for a little longer because it's just a lot of stuff on top of the other. Oh my God.
So when exactly did you first start writing?
Okay, so let's get into this. I started writing when I was 13 years old, and I know that a lot of like everybody, we all keep journals and things like that. But like at least the majority of my friends, right? It was 1999, and I was still listening to the Spice Girls. I'm pretty sure in secret at that point. And Britney Spears was about to be a big hit. And I hated reading. I hated books so much because teachers would just give me, for extracurricular books, we would read like really important books like The House on Mango Street and Number of the Stars. And so everything was so serious. And I just wanted a little bit of more magic from the world. So at that point, we got an assignment to read a book for extra credit, and we had to do it. And I was like, I don't like books, but I went to the library and I found a book, and the cover just hit me, and it's called In the Forests of the Night by Amelia Atwater Rhodes. And when I picked up the book and I turned it around, there was a teenage girl on the author photo. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. She wrote a book and she's my age. Like she's 1 year older than me, right? And she was published by Random House. So I read the book cover to cover. It was about a girl who was changed into being a vampire when she was also 13 or 14. And then she spends her entire life like seeking revenge on the vampire who killed her. And that vampire was sexy. And so like, so I was bitten by the paranormal romance bug. And so I wrote my extra credit assignment. And then the next assignment was write a short story. And I wrote a short story, but I didn't have a computer at the time. So wow, I'm like really dating myself. And like, we just didn't have a family computer. We were broke, but my friend, one of my friends in school, she had a computer, so I went to her house in whatever version of Microsoft Word, the devil, that we're stuck using as writers these days. And and just typed a story. I pantsed my first short story. It was supposed to be 3 pages. It ended up being 21 pages long. It was called Final Heartbreak, after the Jessica Simpson song. And it was about my friend's drama. And I was not very good about changing the names, because I was like, where do I get inspiration from? And I took the drama that my friends were having and I just fictionalized it. I changed names, but I wasn't very clever about it. So Christine turned into Christina. Like it wasn't good. Like nobody would talk to me after it because I had to read it in class.
I'm gonna ask, did they realize?
Yeah, I spilled everyone's secrets. I was like persona non grata. And but after that I was like, oh, I want to be a writer. And so I kept reading Amelia Atwater Rhodes, that author. I kept reading her books. I discovered Holly Black and Charles DeLint, and so I was like, that's when I started thinking about genre, and I was like, okay, I want to write these kinds of stories, right? Magic stories. And I ended up going to, it's gonna be such a long story. I went to a writing camp that was hosted by the National Book Foundation, because I've always been a fucking nerd, right? And it was an all ages writing camp. I was one of the youngest kids there. The oldest person was in their 60s. And I still keep in touch with a few of those people, and some of them have become writers, and others were just like, it was just a nice camp, because at that time, the National Book Foundation was really wanted to foster the idea of just writing, but not getting crazy about the publishing aspect of it, just writing. And so whether or not you wanted to, like, you had to really want to be there, but you didn't have to per se want to have a publishing career, right? You just wanted to write. And so that's what I really appreciated. And that's where I learned about the publishing industry. So I was like 16, 17, and one of the mentors were like, this is pretty solid. Are you, like, you're only 16? And so she like gave me, she told me what a query letter was. I went on Ask Jeeves, and I was like, figured out how to send to agents. I sent my first query letter to an agent when I was 17. I got a rejection because I didn't include that he had requested the full. So it just like never went anywhere. And at that time you had to include self-addressed stamped envelopes so that you could get your manuscript back. So I just got the manuscript back in the mail. And so like that was my first journey of like how I started writing, basically. And then I dedicated like the rest of my life. I'm 35. So I was 17 at that time. And then when I got my first book deal when I was 24, and my first book came out in 2012. I'm about to have my 10-year anniversary. I'm a dinosaur. And I feel like my career has just sort of gone like this. And so we'll, but I'm still trying, and that's my story.
Wow.
I love
I'm
it.
in
I
awe.
love it. Yeah, like to be that motivated that young is like absolutely bonkers. It's amazing. Actually, I'm gonna have you talk to my kids after this, so then you can motivate them.
I was still playing with Barbie dolls until like 14 or something.
So, I was like, I'm gonna be a writer.
It was a late bloomer, Angela. Before you judge, I see your judgmental face. Okay, 12. I loved my Barbies.
Okay, Barbies are great.
I love my Barbies too. I was probably still 13, or I was still playing with Barbie dolls, because I would be like, well, how are my characters moving? And I would be like, okay. And so I had a Luke Skywalker doll and then a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
And I would make them kiss.
It's the original storytelling, right? Like when I wrote on, I didn't actually like dolls. We just made these elaborate stories with them. And I think it carries on.
Yeah, it translated on into storytelling. So what would you tell a baby version of yourself before you published? What was the advice you would give yourself as you've grown, you've learned so much? What would you tell yourself now as an adult?
I would tell myself to calm the fuck down, because I was in such a hurry. I wanted to be like Amelia Atwater Rhodes and published by as a teenager. So I actually went out with my first manuscript with my agent when I was 18.
Wow.
And we got rejected everywhere. And it was like, I remember all the rejections because it was like, this is really funny, but we already have a Latino book for the season. And those were like word for word the rejections that we were getting. And nobody says that now in YA. They do an adult.
Uh-huh.
And they just use like more coded language. And so I was just like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get published. I'm so old. And I didn't write for about a year after that. Like I didn't write a single word for until I was 19. And I think that like I wish I could tell myself to calm down. It's gonna happen. Just work on the thing that matters, which is the actual writing. And I think that if I had had a little bit more patience, I might have been on a different trajectory. But we only get the thing that we got. So but it's hopefully like other people who are listening to this might appreciate it. I know nobody likes to be told to wait, but
it's
sometimes we
important.
have to.
Especially it seems to be in publishing in general. Like you've got to freaking learn to be patient.
Yeah, totally. Wow. I have to say that I'm like heartbroken that those were the kind of the rejections that you were getting then. And like at that age, like you're so fragile.
I've actually talked to like a few of those editors since then. They're like, oh, like you don't remember me, but I have this email in my inbox from 2008.
Yeah, I have receipts.
Wow.
But it's and now they're like, oh yeah, diversity champions, so it's whatever it is. Like at least there's change for the next generation of authors.
Amen. Yeah. And have you seen, a shift obviously in young adult? It seems like that was such a big initiative to push, and fight for many diverse books in all kinds of ways, but it seems to be adult maybe isn't quite there yet.
No, especially adult romance. I think adult romance, adult fantasy has always had, I know that the big properties are always highlighted, like Lord of the Rings and Dune and all that stuff, but like the living authors, I think that adult science fiction fantasy, especially in the short fiction areas and stuff like that, I think that like there's always been a little bit more of change there. But in adult romance, I think adult romance is still super straight and white. And you can tell that by looking at the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah, or just going to Walmart.
Yeah.
When I go to Walmart, it is the same pictures in the adult romance section, and
the same books, the same authors. Yeah, and it is what it is. I think that like there's a lot more conversations that need to happen there, but I almost feel like adult romance is going backwards. And it feels like 2012 all over again in some ways, and I just don't understand it. But
it's one of those shitty things, right?
Yeah, the editors and the editors really need to look at their lists and figure out a way to sell books to other demographics, because I think that's really where it is, because the authors are there and the authors are good. It's just like the publishing houses are stuck in a certain way, and they're sort of like, well, we know how to sell books to this group of people, and so like it's almost like they need to make the effort to figure out how to branch out.
Yeah, and I've been noticing it seems like in the indie world, in self-publishing world, people of color, like the romance books that I'm seeing there are taking off. And so it just shows you, it proves to me that there is an audience. Like people are dying and desperate for, to see themselves in these books. So, so you recently, and I bought it and I loved it. You did an anthology, and I want to say that was an indie book, right? That was a
More Actually.
Yeah, a More Actually. That
Yes.
not Reclaim the Stars, but a More Actually. I bought that, like I read it so fast. It was so fun, and it put me in the holiday spirit. So
Thank
was
you so
that
much.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that book. How was that? Like building the list of all the different authors
I mean, that came super naturally, honestly. It was one of those things where like we had all gone on a writing retreat together. And I didn't know a lot of the adult. I knew I know most people in YA. But I felt like, oh wow, like finally there's a community of Latina authors in adult romance. And so I was, we were like, we should do a writing retreat since we're all, you know, let's just do one. Everyone does writing retreats, right? And so we went. It was at one of somebody in the group's their friend's house. So it was really small, the house, so it was a really small group because we were in like a friend's family house. And we roasted a lot of chickens, had a lot of prosecco. I brought this like rose flavored syrup, and we drank the whole bottle. It was like delicious. It was so good. We made like rose flavored mimosas basically. And we just wrote a lot of works. We workshopped with each other, and I was like, oh, we should do, because I'm used to doing anthologies in YA, but apparently they're not always the same in adult. It doesn't have the same structure. And I was like, we should do an anthology together. And so we were like, yeah. And then like, let's try next year. Next year, boom, pandemic, right? We do a virtual retreat where we're like, oh, we need to cheer each other up. Like, and so we did a retreat. And at that writing retreat, we said it again, like, hey, we should do an anthology together. And I had the holiday idea for sort of like re-envisioning what Love Actually might look like if it was all Latinx couples and modern, right? Without the weird fat jokes and without the the women being punished in some stories, and just making sure everybody had a happily ever after. We did try to sell it to traditional publishers, and a lot of feedback was like, we don't think this is going to sell in print. And I was like, okay, thank you. And then the same exact publishers announced, like almost 4 months later after that rejection, they announced an anthology, a holiday anthology with like a very similar premise, but in historical. And I was like, okay, I understand what's happening. So it was really just hard not to feel a certain kind of way about it. But the anthology itself was like the best thing that we did in 2021. It's something that we carved out time from our regular schedules and made happen because we all wanted to see it. And it was just so much fun. And I went through and I did all the continuity between all the stories so that we could tie them together with a little thread. And it was great.
I love that. You did a fantastic job, honestly. Like I gobbled that up. I was just living for it. So it's there. I appreciate it. And I saw a lot of people give it a lot of love, and it deserved it.
That was so it was a good boost. It was a good, like, it was bolstering to us.
Yeah.
So what is your writing style? Plotter, pantser, something in between?
I think it's something in between. When I was in Spain, I was talking to one of my editors for Labyrinth Lost, and because also like it took me like 7 years to get a Spanish translation for Labyrinth Lost. And so I love this editor because they super got it, and they translated into Spanish. And she asked me, I asked her, how do you say plotter and pantser in Spanish? Because I was like, I can't think of a word, and I don't really know the writing world in Latin America. And she said that they call it map writer. And so like you either write with a map or you're like an exploratory writer.
I
And
love
so I was like, oh yeah, because it's like uh I've always equated writing with like with maps and destinations, which is why, you know, Deadline City just has that metaphor, or the podcast. Because when I write, I outline, and I deeply outline, but I also deeply outline because I have deadlines. If I didn't have a deadline, I would love to just write a book that felt like I'm a compass. So like you're either a map writer or you're a compass writer. With a compass, you know, like you have a direction, you know where you're going. But like you're sort of just like following your way through this area. And with a map writer, you have your route already plotted. And so I would love to figure out a way. Yeah, it's cool. And so I would love to just not have a deadline, or just write a book that's just for me, and just like, but I feel like now I have the plot. I have a like not like a concrete plot, but I have beats that I know that I want to hit internally, right? Because we all know story. Every single one of us. You watched a movie, you've seen a play, you know story. And it is like a Western story structure, but we know that there's an introduction, something happens, there's rising action, and then there's falling action. And even if it's just that, that's like enough of an outline that I would like to just write a book where I'm just like, let's just see what happens.
To be honest, that's the original structure I was taught in a class that I did, and learning like kind of the Save the Cat beats was like a huge revelation to me much later as a writer. And I think it can go too fast sometimes when you try to map it out. Actually, and I won't say the book, but of course I wouldn't say the book, but there's a book I've read, and they mapped it out so perfectly, but it was tedious to read. You know, it was so formulaic. It was hitting every beat. I was like, I should love this. This is like everything that I usually want, but it was just so heavily planned out. You lose what you're talking about, that organic storytelling thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll outline everything, but as I start writing, something will organically happen where I'm just like, my brain didn't think about it in the outlining stage, but it's thinking about it in the drafting stage. And I think that's what I love about outlining, because it gives me a foundation that I can there build on top of. So I know some people are like, oh, it's like a formula like in romance, but there's a difference between formula and genre expectations, right? And so I think that those two are very different things. And if you write genre, you have to be, you know, like if you have a murder mystery, you have to have a suspect and a red herring, right? And if you write a fantasy, you have to have like some sort of fantastical element, take us to another world. And so I just like to, you know, make sure I tell like new authors or aspiring authors, like, don't be afraid of the outline, that it's going to make it feel prescriptive, because at the end of the day, you're still putting your voice into it.
That is so good. And it's something I keep trying to work on myself, because for this last book I wrote, Sinner's Isle, like I had an outline and then I realized it was all wrong. And I threw it all out. And then I just wrote what I realized was wrong from the outline. So I kind of did maybe a reverse outline, but it worked.
Yeah. Sometimes you also have to start backwards, right? I know I always go into a book knowing how it ends. And so I'm writing toward that ending.
Yes.
So
I love
cool.
that. Yeah, that's great. Let me write that down.
No, I love hearing everyone's different process. And that's, I'm the opposite. I write with the initial idea. So I'm picturing you knowing what your ending is and just driving towards that. It's very cool.
Now, how has it been? I don't know if you've already done it before, but like traditionally you are very like well known for young adult. And how has it been bumping up into adult, into writing this like gorgeous, lush book that is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina? Like how how is it different, young adult versus adult for you?
In adult, I feel like you're allowed to sit longer in some moments in adult. And this is not like, please don't take this as like definitive, like these are the rules, because there are no rules, right? Like there are rules, but you can break any rule you want, right? Writers do it all the time, right? We learn rules so that we can break them and make our own rules. And especially in something that's so creative and like an individual. But I feel like in YA, there's almost this expectancy for authors to hit really, really quick beats. And so I feel like so much of my feedback from editors in YA were like, let's cut this for pacing, this for pacing. And in my adult, my editor was like, can we stay here a little longer? And I was like, so traumatized. I was like, but we have to cut for pacing. So that was the biggest difference, is sort of like being given the permission to slow down. And that doesn't mean the book has to be 600 pages, because Orquídea is still a short book, technically, right? It just means that the scene can just, you can just linger in important moments that are going to advance either character or setting or plot. And so that was the biggest difference, but my voice stayed the same. I did try to, be a little more pretty with the sentences, because it was my adult debut. It was sort of like, I told myself, I'm like, okay, well, like every sentence has to be the best sentence I've ever written to date. And the book took me 3 years to write. So most of my YA books, I feel like, are a year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
3 years. Okay. So I would say for a year to write a young adult feels fast for me personally. I'd be more on the 3 year spectrum. So,
but also you have to, career-wise, like now that you're publishing, my debut novel, the Vicious Deep, which was like my first series, in 2012, that's the last book that you're ever gonna write without a contract, right? For a while. So like you have to figure out time management. I did not figure that out for years. Like I was like, oh yeah, I can, because I didn't think about the fact that like I wrote the Vicious Deep over the course of several years. I wrote a big chunk of it like in 2010, but I've been writing that book since 2009 and 2009 to 2011. So like 2 years. And then the sequel, I only had like 11 months to write it. So I didn't know, right? It's like the last book that you can write without pressure.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, honestly, I'm feeling that because like we were talking about deadlines for book 2, whatever book 2 is. I don't even know what it is at this point. And I was feeling it yesterday, just like shit, like okay, here we go. Right. It's game time.
And it's like, don't let anyone pressure you into a 1 year schedule, because they will try so hard. And honestly, it's the easiest way to get burned out and then to hate everything.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah. In my day, most authors were on a 2 year schedule. And then I saw in like a 4 or 5 year period, it became a 1 year truncated schedule. And that was awful for so many writers. I know so many writers who just like burned out and never published again. But you have to stay in it. You have to find a way to get over the burnout.
How do you deal with burnout? I see that our time is up, but are close to ending somehow, but I don't know how. But I'm so curious how you deal with burnout? Because you've been at it for so long and you keep like printing these fire books. Like, so how just how?
I threatened to quit and go out to sea or into some forest every 6 months. Like I truly do. I'm just like, you know what? This is it. That's it. I have learned that now I need longer breaks between books. So for instance, I have 3 deadlines before that are due by August. I've turned one in.
Okay.
I have 2 more to write. I have like my Star Wars book for the High Republic. And then I have like a third contract book, which is secret, and but it's my next adult book.
Good.
And so I have like, I know myself now, and I'm just like, I have to take a definitive break where I'm not writing. I'm just consuming media, art, music, time with friends and family, trips if I can manage them, right? Like I need that input of life and art. And that's how I get over burnout. And I make sure I take like between 2 to 4 weeks between projects. Because before I used to just jump right in, and that killed me. And I hated writing for like a long time.
Yeah. No, I could see where you would need to. And I think the pressure of like keep going, keep writing, keep, producing, but the idea of like cutting it all off and actually relaxing is huge. Cause like we say we're relaxing, but really our brains are going. And
and it's stressful. Like trying to relax is stressful.
Yeah. It is though. I'm working on it. After deadline, I will
take time.
Yeah.
It's hard to switch the creative mind off, I think. And I find that as soon as because I also need those breaks where for me, it's just the screens. I need a break from screens more than I need from.
I'm taking a month-long break off of Twitter.
Yeah.
And Instagram. Because I had to wait until the Reclaim the Stars launch, and then I was like, all right, bye, deleting this off my phone. I feel a little weird and disconnected, but I have to work, so.
Yeah, and you're connecting with yourself and your friends and family, and how important is that,
Yeah. And you're
valuable.
So right. You can't write unless you refill the well. You can't just keep squeezing out stuff. And I agree with you about adding experiences in. Like I also need to be consuming new material, going to new places,
watch TV, watch movies,
like
just
be friends. Like if you don't have anything real to write about, I think.
Almost every inspiration I've had for a book has been like walking on the beach and seeing a person, taking the subway, seeing like a person, watching a movie and being like, oh, what if this was different, right? Like that's important. It's super important.
It is. And I know you read or you get through a lot of books, right?
Audiobooks have saved me. Because there was a period of time where I was like, I could barely get through like 10 books a year. And now I'm just like 100 books. Let's do this.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. What are you listening to right now?
I'm listening to a lot of Star Wars books, honestly. Like, because I'm trying to catch up. Also, Tessa Bailey. I'm a huge fan of Tessa Bailey. I've always loved her books, and so I'm catching up on some of the books that I've missed. This book hasn't come out yet, but I read Book of Night by Holly Black, which is awesome. It's incredible. And if you like historical romance, A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. It's phenomenal. It's everything I've wanted from historical romance. It's sexy. There's Paris and Scotland and a Latina heiress, and it's just so much fun. So
I just got chills because I've seen that freaking book and I'm like, I have to have that. So
it's good. It's real good.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm jealous. Well, I mean, I'm seeing we have 2 minutes left on the show. I don't know how we managed to break down that time, but is there any advice that you'd like to, I mean, you've already given us so much, but like any advice you'd like to, give to young authors or just writers in general?
I think that my advice would be to take your time with your craft. Make sure that you're consuming a lot of media. Um, make as many genuine friendships as you can. I feel like it's really important to find the people that you really vibe with, that like you for you, and not because you're a stepping stone on a much longer journey. And that's going to be a trial and error. I've been through all of it. I think that you have to be kind with your colleagues, because everyone processes things differently. Everyone writes differently, and you're always going to be at different levels with your friends. But it's not a competition. The only competition is with yourself. I also think no agent is better than a bad agent. So you have to learn to let go of if you're ever unhappy and if you're ever doubting, trust your instinct. You have to trust your instinct, and make sure that a lawyer reads all of your contracts.
Okay, that's good practical advice right there.
That was the most succinct. You made me tear up with some of that. That was a beautiful way to end this segment. Seriously, wow. So much in those last few sentences. We're so honored to have had you on today, and
thank you so much.
We'll be watching and reading, and hopefully see you again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I mean, I've proclaimed my obsession with you probably too many times, so I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all the books you write, and it means a lot to a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.